Hello, fight fans, and welcome to Fight News Now Extra. I'm John Pollock, and we've got lots of news to get to from this past weekend, as John Ramdeen and Robin Black will be joining me to discuss all of it. Today, we're chatting the potential for one of the biggest cards in UFC history, a return to the UK for the organization, and Invicta crowns a new champion. UFC President Dana White announced on ESPN Saturday night that Chris Weidman will defend the middleweight title against Henderson-Silva in the much-anticipated rematch at UFC 168 on December the 28th at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, on the same card where Ronda Rousey defends her bantamweight title against Tate, which is also a rematch. UFC internally is hoping this could be the second most purchased event all time underneath UFC 100. MMAJunkie.com is reporting that the UFC will return to Manchester, England on October the 26th for a show that will air on FS1 in the US. The main event is scheduled to feature a middleweight bout between Michael Bisping and Mark Munoz, with both coming out victorious in their last outings, and will propel the winner right near the top of the 185-pound weight class. And Invicta FC 6 took place on Saturday night from Kansas City, Missouri on pay-per-view and was headlined by Chris Cyborg Justino becoming the first Invicta FC featherweight champion, stopping Marloes Coenen at 4:02 of the fourth round. The 11-bout card featured Leslie Smith and Jennifer Maia taking Fight of the Night honors. Jessica Penne got the Sub of the Night bonus, and Miriam Nakamoto earned the Knockout of the Night bonus. And joining us as always, John Ramdeen and Robin Black. Lots of news to dive into. First up, Dana White announcing on Saturday night that the rematch is set for December the 28th, UFC 168. Henderson-Silva challenging now Chris Weidman for the middleweight title, on top of the fact that we're going to have Ronda Rousey, Tate on the same card. Many believe this will be the second most purchased event ever for the UFC, right underneath UFC 100. And if these two fights don't fall apart from injuries, very well could be within striking distance.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. We all knew this was going to happen. Henderson-Silva clearly wanted a rematch. He doesn't just want super fights. He wants to not establish, he's already cemented his legacy, but I think it just speaks volumes about Henderson-Silva. He still wants to pursue that title, still wants to be recognized as the best 185-pound fighter in the world.
Yeah, he's almost 40 years old, and this wouldn't be the first guy in combat sports to lose one, come back and dominate again, and that's what he'll look to do. The first fight was, everybody's still talking about it. It was odd, it was cool, it was weird. If you're an Henderson-Silva fan, you got angry. If you're a Chris Weidman fan, it was the greatest thing ever. People are talking about it. Suddenly Henderson-Silva is human. He was inhuman for 16 fights. He's suddenly human. Everybody wants to see this fight.
And there's so many ways that you can dissect this rematch. If you're an Henderson-Silva fan, you can certainly make the argument, well, that wasn't the Henderson-Silva you're going to see in this rematch. If you're Chris Weidman, you're saying he's going to do the exact same thing. He's going to take him down more times than he did in the first fight. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at it, and that makes for a great dynamic for this rematch, where even the early odds that are out are favoring Henderson-Silva in this rematch.
Yeah, but I mean, Chris Weidman's one of these, this guy only has 10 professional fights, so he gets to spend the rest of the year honing his abilities, trying to learn the game of mixed martial arts. We already know what we're going to get from Henderson-Silva. The guy, not that he hasn't evolved, we see his takedown offense is always evolving, but the fact is, you know what you're going to get from Henderson-Silva. Chris Weidman, you just expected, okay, you're going to get the submission wrestler, he's going to take the fight down to the ground and either look for a submission or unleash some ground and pound. But we've seen that he's got a pretty lethal left hook as well, so I think he's going to further establish those skills, and I think he's going to surprise Henderson-Silva in the rematch. I don't know if he's going to beat him, but I think it's going to be a lot more competitive than people are anticipating.
Yeah, you know, originally we talked about exactly that. We talked about Weidman looking for the takedown and beating him up on the ground. Well, that's still in play. I mean, that's still definitely possible. But then now we have this conversation about the real Henderson-Silva. Henderson-Silva, who's got something to prove, who hasn't had anything to prove for a long time. So this is definitely one from today until the fight that people are going to be talking about. It's a good one.
What's going to get more attention on this card? The Ronda Rousey-Tate fight or this rematch?
This rematch, man. Ronda Rousey-Tate is a very cool fight, and realistically, if you plug it in as a co-main event underneath one of the great, most anticipated fights in history, it's even better. I mean, it's a great fight. And by the time people watch them hate each other on the show for a little while, it's going to be all the better. But Henderson-Silva versus Chris Weidman, too. That's the fight of the decade.
You know that there's 4 people at SI.com right now who are looking at this announcement and saying, like, see, knew it was a fixed fight.
Yeah, exactly.
They're going to make millions on this rematch.
Any journalist who actually debated
we slaughtered them last week. So feel free to add to the bonfire.
Yeah, man. Any journalist who debated whether or not that was fixed really needs to get a new job.
kind of lost in the whole wake of this announcement of the rematch is another rematch that is going to be happening at the end of the summer on August 31st. TJ Grant out with a concussion that he sustained a couple of weeks back, and in to fight Benson Henderson. The most interesting year for any fighter in history, Anthony Pettis, with the highs and the lows throughout this year, and now he's going to be fighting in his hometown for the lightweight title in a rematch of one of the most famous matches in WEC history, with easily the most famous spot in WEC history with the Showtime.
So let me get this straight. He lost a bunch of title shots because he got injured, and now somehow he finds himself fighting in his own backyard against the man that he beat already. I think Anthony Pettis has got to play the lottery, because this guy is in a great position right now, because they are going to plug the living daylights out of that first fight with that highlight, with the Showtime kick, and Anthony Pettis just continuing to evolve, just an absolute perfect fighter for the UFC's 155-pound division to be a representative, because he's so explosive, he's so entertaining, and again, with the backstory, they are going to sell the daylights out of this.
But let's not forget that this fight, at one point, the UFC brought him down to Vegas, had Pettis examined by their doctors about his knee. They said, this guy's not ready to go for August 31st. Now, all of a sudden, we need someone. He is ready to go. This is a fight that could very well go the distance here. 25 minutes. Is Anthony Pettis' knee going to be up for 25 minutes of hard fighting here with Benson Henderson?
That's the thing. If he's kind of ready or almost ready or fairly ready, that's a problem. This is a huge fight. He's not going to get another title shot if this goes wrong. I hope that guy has really looked at it and really checked everything out and is sure, because you don't want to take this fight and have a tree fall apart underneath you.
But I mean, Robin, you've spoken to Duke Rufus. These guys aren't dumb. They know that this is a huge opportunity, and clearly, if the UFC was going to give him the opportunity now, they would have given him the opportunity in the next 8 or 10 months.
I have all the respect for Anthony Pettis in the cage, but some of his out-of-the-cage decisions, I'm not going to put his better judgment at the top of his attributes. Quickly, Invicta FC6 on the weekend, thumbs up, middle. I kind of saw this as an average show for the company.
It's got the Beck Hyatt fight, excellent, and Cyborg just proving
Mizuta Inoue. Keep note of that woman.
And Cyborg. Cyborg's a star. The UFC should get on board and profile this girl.
I think Invicta always puts on good shows.
That's all for us. We got more Fight News Now Extra up right now.